30. The famous wise ones. The people have ye served, and the people's superstition, not the truth, all ye famous wise ones, and just on that account did they pay you reverence. And on that account also did they tolerate your unbelief, because it was a pleasantry and a bypath for the people. Thus doth the master give free scope to his slaves, and even enjoyeth their presumptuousness.
Zarathustra continues to criticize certain groups of people, and here he goes after the thinkers who are popular with the masses. He claims that they prostitute their wisdom to gain accolades. The second paragraph seems to suggest that they are also tools in the hands of the master to assuage the masses and keep them docile. But who is this master that he is talking about? It is also the masses. Herd mentality is the master in Zarathustra's worldview. This herd mentality wants to keep everyone part of the herd, and it tolerates the iconoclasm of the famous wise ones because it doesn't really threaten the prevailing order, but merely provides entertainment.
But he who is hated by the people, as the wolf by the dogs, is the free spirit, the enemy of fetters, the non-adorer, the dweller in the woods. To hunt him out of his lair, that was always called sense of right by the people. On him do they still hound their sharpest-toothed dogs.
On the other hand, there are those wise men who are true truth-seekers. They do threaten the prevailing order, and are thus hated by the herd mentality, and persecuted by the masses.
For there the truth is where the people are. Woe, woe to the seeking ones, thus hath it echoed through all time. Your people would ye justify in their reverence, that called ye will to truth, ye famous wise ones. And your heart hath always said to itself, From the people have I come, from thence came to me also the voice of God.
We've encountered this before, in the discourse titled The 1001 Goals. There, he said that the tribes came first, and each tribe created their own truth and their own values. But there were individuals within these tribes who felt alienated to those values, because their personal truth was different. They are the ones who become free spirits. Meanwhile, every tribe contains wise people who believe in the values of the tribe, and use their wisdom to portray these values as the one and only truth. They claim that they are driven by the will to truth, but actually, they are only uncritically affirming what was instilled in them.
Stiff-necked and artful, like the ass, have ye always been as the advocates of the people. And many a powerful one who wanted to run well with the people hath harnessed in front of his horses a donkey, a famous wise man.
Zarathustra, as usual, uses metaphors to refer to types of people, and this type he calls donkeys. Instead of using their wisdom to develop their own spirit, they become a beast of burden to the values of the herd. Worse, they sometimes serve populist leaders, who hire them to use their wisdom in their service.
And now, ye famous wise ones, I would have you finally throw off entirely the skin of the lion. The skin of the beast of prey, the speckled skin, and the dishevelled locks of the investigator, the searcher, and the conqueror. Ah, for me to learn to believe in your conscientiousness, you would first have to break your venerating will.
Once again, like we've seen in several discourses already, he alludes to his very first discourse on the three metamorphoses of the spirit. The beast of burden, as we recall, is the first stage of the spirit, when it accumulates the knowledge that came before. But then, in the second stage, it must become a lion. The famous wise ones are those who fail to move to the second stage. Instead of the beast of burden being a camel that takes what it accumulates and runs with it to the desert, where it must criticize and refute it to become a lion, they choose to remain in the confines of their world, be donkeys instead of camels, and thus never turn into lions. They pretend to be lions, but Zarathustra sees through their pretense. He demands that they either become lions or remove the fake lion skin that they are wearing.
Conscientious, so call I him who goeth into God-forsaken wildernesses, and hath broken his venerating heart. In the yellow sands and burnt by the sun, he doubtless peereth thirstily at the isles rich in fountains, where life reposeth under shady trees.
When you go to the desert, Zarathustra warns, there are going to be temptations there. As you fight to find your truth, you might be tempted to give up and settle for a worldview that offers comfort.
But his thirst doth not persuade him to become like those comfortable ones, for where there are oases, there are also idols. Hungry, fierce, lonesome, God-forsaken, so doth the lion will wish itself. Free from the happiness of slaves, redeemed from deities and adorations, fearless and fear-inspiring, grand and lonesome, so is the will of the conscientious.
The free spirit, or the conscientious, as Zarathustra calls him here, resists these temptations. His lion spirit keeps on fighting anything that presents itself as a truth that he must succumb to. There is comfort in worshipping these false idols, but it is the comfort of the slave. He would rather suffer through the hardships of being a free spirit.
In the wilderness have ever dwelt the conscientious, the free spirits, as lords of the wilderness. But in the cities dwell the well-foddered, famous wise ones, the draught beasts. For always do they draw, as asses, the people's carts. Not that I on that account upbraid them, but serving ones do they remain, and harnessed ones, even though they glitter in golden harness.
Zarathustra is not as critical of the famous wise one as he was of other types of people. Remember, he does not think that tribes and nations are a bad thing. Most people are not capable of being free spirits, and need to live within a group. The famous wise ones are those who do have what it takes to be free spirits, yet choose to remain in the group. They are doing a disservice to their spirit, but at least they are not harmful. By employing their wisdom in the service of their nation, they are making their nation stronger and better, and that is a good thing.
And often have they been good servants, and worthy of their hire. For thus saith virtue, If thou must be a servant, seek him unto whom thy service is most useful. The spirit and virtue of thy master shall advance by thou being his servant. Thus wilt thou thyself advance with his spirit and virtue. And verily, ye famous wise ones, ye servants of the people, ye yourselves have advanced with the people's spirit and virtue, and the people by you. To your honor do I say it.
Again, Zarathustra does see virtue in the famous wise ones. One of the ways to grow spiritually, we already learned, is to obey a master that is greater than you, and forces you to go beyond yourself in order to serve him. In their case, they use their talents to make the nation greater, and the greater the nation you serve, the more you have to grow in spirit.
But the people ye remain, for me, even with your virtues, the people with purblind eyes, the people who know not what spirit is. Spirit is life which itself cutteth into life. By its own torture doth it increase its own knowledge. Did ye know that before? And the spirit's happiness is this, to be anointed and consecrated with tears as a sacrificial victim. Did ye know that before?
The famous wise ones, then, are commended for acting in a way that makes their spirit grow. But then, he chastises them yet again, because their way does not achieve the full potential of the spirit. They remain part of the people, of the masses who are poor in spirit, and don't achieve the heights that they could have reached. And here is where Zarathustra provides his famous definition of spirit: life that cuts into life. What does it mean? It means that the forces of life, those forces within you that want you to grow and become greater, are cutting into what you are now, in order to get rid of everything that is stifling that growth. It takes suffering and sacrificing parts of yourself to go to the heights that the spirit can reach. But the famous wise ones are remaining in their comfort zone, so their spirit grows very little and never achieves these heights.
And the blindness of the blind one, and his seeking and groping, shall yet testify to the power of the sun into which he hath gazed. Did ye know that before? And with mountains shall the discerning one learn to build. It is a small thing for the spirit to remove mountains. Did ye know that before? Ye know only the sparks of the spirit, but ye do not see the anvil which it is, and the cruelty of its hammer.
Some more metaphors that say the same thing. The powers of the spirit, and the joys it can experience, are far greater than you famous wise men know. You experience only a little of it. The blind is someone who sacrificed his eyesight so he can gaze into the sun, a metaphor for sacrificing to achieve greatness. The mountains show us the power of the strong human spirit, so powerful that it can take mountains and build something out of them. And the anvil and hammer symbolize the faculties of the human spirit, the tools with which it creates sparks. The poor in spirit are aware of the sparks, but don't realize that they come from man's inner powers.
Verily ye know not the Spirit's pride, but still less could ye endure the Spirit's humility, should it ever want to speak. And never yet could ye cast your spirit into a pit of snow, ye are not hot enough for that. Thus are ye unaware also of the delight of its coldness. In all respects, however, ye make too familiar with the Spirit, and out of wisdom have ye often made an almshouse and a hospital for bad poets.
Pride, we already know, is the virtue that drives the spirit to break away and try to reach higher. When you are driven by this pride, you also learn humility, learn to calm down your spirit when it reaches too far. Zarathustra proclaims that there is joy in both states, the state of pride, which he likens to burning in flames, and the state of humility, which he compares to being thrown into a pit of snow to cool down. I believe we are hearing echoes of Nietzsche's very first book here, the book titled The Birth of Tragedy. There, he claimed that there are two fundamental elements to Greek tragedy. One is the Dionysian, which is the ecstasy you feel when all norms and truths collapse, and you are thrown into chaos and disintegration. With that, however, comes the realization that this chaos is what reality truly is, and that all the truths and norms we believe in are just constructs. This realization is too much for humans to bear, so they also need the Apollonian element, which dresses reality in beautiful forms and puts it in order. After the Dionysian ecstasy comes the catharsis, in which the Apollonian element comes in, cools things down, and restores order. A little over a decade passed since Nietzsche wrote that book, and his definitions of these elements changed a little. In his new perception, the Dionysian is what he calls the feeling that we feel when the power within us breaks the truths and norms, to achieve greater heights. This can be equated to the hot state that he mentions in this passage. But once you broke the mold, your spirit has to cool down, create new forms to express the new insights that you came up with. This is somewhat similar to what he used to call the Apollonian, and to the humble, cold state that he mentions here. Both states are joyful. The famous wise ones, however, know none of those states. They are happy living by their truths and norms, and believe that this is what the spirit is about. They use their wisdom to praise the poets who give a nice form to this contented spirit, and thus further shroud our realization of the joys that we can actually achieve.
Ye are not eagles, thus have ye never experienced the happiness of the alarm of the spirit, and he who is not a bird should not camp above abysses. Ye seem to me lukewarm ones, but coldly floweth all deep knowledge. Ice cold are the innermost wells of the spirit, a refreshment to hot hands and handlers. Respectable do ye there stand, and stiff, and with straight backs, ye famous wise ones. No strong wind or will impelleth you.
This pretty much repeats the same point. What is added is that he uses an old metaphor, that of the eagle, to refer to pride, and also introduces a new metaphor, that of the lukewarm, to refer to the state of never hot and never cold that the famous wise ones are in. The more interesting thing here is that he says that the innermost wells of the spirit are cold. I think he means that many are capable of achieving Dionysian ecstasy, but only those whose spirit is deep are able to then impose a new order on the chaos that the Dionysian has wrought. They have that coldness within them, that power that allows them to cool down and take charge again.
Have ye ne'er seen a sail crossing the sea, rounded and inflated, and trembling with the violence of the wind? Like the sail trembling with the violence of the spirit doth my wisdom cross the sea, my wild wisdom. But ye servants of the people, ye famous wise ones, how could ye go with me? Thus spake Zarathustra.
Sharp differences in temperature create strong winds, and when your spirit is sometimes hot and sometimes cold, the result is a powerful wind that takes it across unexplored seas and oceans. The famous wise ones don't have what it takes to go across these seas, so Zarathustra bids them farewell and carries on his way. We are halfway through the book, and we feel like we got the gist of it. Zarathustra is an individualist, a free spirit, who achieved heights of spirit that brought him greater happiness than what common folks experience. He gives lectures to try to show us the way, so we can join him in that happy place, form a community of free spirits, which will work together to surpass man and breed the Superman. There is no special drama, and it feels like a regular philosophical book, albeit dressed in prophetic tongue. But a change is coming, a change that, I believe, emerges out of this idea that one has to oscillate between hot and cold states in order to achieve the greatest happiness. Zarathustra is now going to look at himself, and wonder if he is still experiencing such changes in temperature, and if he truly is as happy as he claims. Things are about to get interesting.